now we are going to our next panel session. We have one more panel session after this before we call it a day. And we have some fantastic speakers for you as per usual. Now, if you join us for this insightful conversation that aims to shape the future of energy in Africa and foster a collaborative spirit for the benefit of all. Now, when we look at this particular topic, is it time for borderless operations among African energy players? Well, we're going to be having our panelists come on to talk about this. In this illuminating panel session, our experts and industry leaders will navigate the complex landscape of energy operations across the continent. As Africa continues to seek sustainable and inclusive energy solutions, I mean, we're just listening to Engineer Sadiq there that was talking about gas in itself being a form of power. And from even at COP28, I've heard that a deal has been signed to actually stop, to have Nigeria be one of the countries that will stop gas flaring by the year 2030. So, of course, energy is one of those conversations that we'll continue to talk about. From policy considerations to technological advancements, we'll explore sorry for that interruption. From policy considerations to technological advancements, we will explore how transcending borders can propel the continent towards a more integrated and resilient energy ecosystem. We're going to be, so sorry, excuse me, I think is everything, are we on track? Okay, all right then. Just wanted to make sure everything is going okay. So please join us for an insightful conversation that aims to shape the future of energy in Africa and foster a collaborative spirit for the benefit of all. Now we're going to be kicking this off with our first speaker. Her name is Cecilia Umoren. She's an accomplished lawyer with over 40 years of experience in the legal and corporate sectors. She currently serves as the executive chairman of Milienium Oil and Gas Company Limited, overseeing operations in the Oza marginal oil field in the Niger Delta here in Nigeria. Formerly the founding partner of the Cecilia Okafor and Associates, which is now Sapphire Partners. She's led a full-service corporate and litigation firm representing numerous foreign companies. Cecilia extends her influence to various boards, including Waltersmith Petroman Oil Limited and Emerald Energy Resources Limited. Additionally, she contributes to the governance of the Petroleum Club Lagos and holds the esteemed position of Chairman Board of Trustees, Women in Energy Network Nigeria. Recently recognized for her leadership, Cecilia Umoren was honored with an honorary doctorate by the London Commonwealth University. If you would please put your hands together for the Executive Chairman of Milienium Oil and Gas, Cecilia Umoren. I love how you're strutting to the stage. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. Please keep clapping until she makes her way to the stage. That is Executive Chairman, Milienium Oil and Gas, Cecilia Umoren. Please have a seat. Thank you so much. Could just take the second one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. Now, our next speaker, Jumoke Adekomi, is the Chief Risk Officer at Moneda Invest, a finance company that is unlocking growth in Africa through alternative capital. Prior to joining Moneda, Jumoke worked with Guarantee Trust Bank. She is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Credit Administration, has a certificate from the Global Association of Risk Professionals and the ISO 1000 certification alongside professional affiliations with the International Risks Managers Professional Association. Please put your hands together for the Chief Risk Officer at Moneda Invest, Jumoke Adekomi, as she makes her way to the stage, looking lovely in that navy blue, I think. Looking so lovely. Thank you. Please keep clapping. It's not easy. Please, as she makes her way, don't stop clapping until she sits down. Thank you so much for your time and your patience. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, our next speaker is another Jumoke. But this time around, Ade Jumoke Oyedun. She's a seasoned strategic administrator and HR leader with over 24 years of experience. She's currently the managing director at Newhouse International, a prominent oil and gas industry events management company in Nigeria and the United States. She also serves as the executive director at the Acme Multi-Tech Services, a reputable oil and gas technical service company. Her extensive skill set is evident in orchestrating essential events globally, such as the OTC in Houston, the Global Petroleum Show in Calgary, and ADIPEC in Abu Dhabi, also known as ADIPEC in Abu Dhabi, the Offshore Europe in Aberdeen, SIPEC in Lagos, and the PETAN Annual Oil and Gas Industry Award Ceremony. She's already on stage, so please just give her a round of applause for getting here before I finished her bio. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And now to call on stage our moderator for this particular panel discussion. I'm talking about no one other than Ogechi Nkwoji. She's a certified public accountant and brings extensive experience from management roles at Bain & Company and PricewaterhouseCoopers, and currently serves as the head of the Economic Intelligence Research and Regulation at the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria. She joined in 2018 after nearly a decade at Total Nigeria. Her roles at Total included Financial Reporting Manager, Credit Control Manager, and Data Analysis Manager. In her current position at MOMAN, Ogechi spearheads engagements with government and stakeholders, delivering both quantitative and qualitative economic research. Her focus is on addressing downstream petroleum industry issues, contributing to the aim of establishing a sustainable petroleum downstream industry in Nigeria. Please put your hands together for Ogechi Nkwoji, the head of Economic Intelligence Research and Regulation at MOMAN. We appreciate you here. Now I'm going to hand it over to you. You have 30 minutes. The fine for going over 30 minutes, as we all know, is a... Oh, okay, there's one more person joining us online. There's one more person joining us online. Sorry for that interference. Okay, just 1 second. Okay. So we have Michelle Husseini joining us virtually. Michelle is the executive chairman of Mitra Energy. He specializes in managing companies in the tourism, industrial, and energy sectors. Focusing on energy and capital markets, he spearheads projects to improve lives in emerging markets. With a keen market sense, he identifies investment opportunities and partners, leading ventures in industries like furniture, metallurgy, and energy. Notably, he chairs Amapetrol, the Association of Mozambique's petroleum companies, contributing significantly to the country's economy. His latest endeavor is the $3.5 billion Yuxin Smart project in Mozambique's Maputo province. And he's the only man on this panel. And he's not here. Why are you afraid, Michelle? I'm just joking. Thank you so much for his joining us virtually. And now I will hand it over to you to take it away. Like I was saying before, if you go over the time, you have to buy a cow for us. And we already know that a cow is 400K based off of our first panel discussion. So I will put you in charge of that. But thank you so much. You can take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for being so patient and still sticking with us. On behalf of the Mentor Matchup Challenge 5.0, I want to welcome you all to this afternoon's session, and a big welcome to our panelists. So hopefully this should be a very interactive and exciting session. I was going to have each person introduce themselves, but we've done that already. So just to start off, I know Nigeria, we've talked a lot today, and we know about the challenges that is going on in the energy sector in Nigeria, from energy security to sustainable energy transition to infrastructure, and now to increase in demand. At the end of the day, we all know that Nigeria as a whole needs to survive, and Africa needs to survive. I know some facts. I know that now at least we're about 1.5 billion Africans, and we consume about 6% of the energies, the world energy demand. And that number is going to go up, because the prediction is at least by 2050, Africa's population is going to almost double. So we need to start having this discussion as to how to meet this increased demand in terms of, policy changes, regulations, have these deep discussions about this. So it's apt that our topic today our topic is really apt today, and hopefully we should hear a lot of information from our speakers. So I will start off, first of all, ask general questions, and I will ask each individual panelist. Michelle, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Okay. Good afternoon.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start off. Our topic, as we said, it begs the question, is it time for borderless operations among African energy players? So how can borderless operations positively impact the efficiency and effectiveness of energy projects in the African context? We've been talking about sustainable energy development as well within Africa. So I'll start off with you, Madam Cecilia.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all say that I'm excited to be amongst all these young people, because this conversation essentially, at the bottom of it is sustainability and movement to renewable energy and all the problems that the climate crisis has brought upon us. This is a problem that your generation did not cause. Even in Africa, we only emit 4% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, but we're left with the unique problem of having to grapple with an Africa or a Nigeria that has a huge deficit of infrastructure as well as energy. And we're having to face how we're going to develop our infrastructure and our energy, and also solve the climate crisis that has been thrust upon us. So apologies, but you have to face it head on. Africa has to solve Africa's problems, because all the investment funds that has been promised to Africa has not materialized. Instead, we have obstacles that have been thrust on us. But fast forward, go back to the question which is, of course, a borderless Africa will catalyze, development and investments, because it will provide a seamless collaborative operations when there are no borders. You can imagine, Africa is a $1 trillion market. If there are no borders, you didn't have to worry about, oh, how do I get my operations to Ghana or to Kenya or to anywhere? It would give you the opportunity to scale. Nigerians are very ambitious and they're very innovative. And once the opportunity is there, they will take it. They're already struggling to do business in other African countries, not to talk of if the borders were collapsed. But that's a further conversation, because collapsing borders takes the will of the government, and it's not just something you talk about. We've been talking about it for a long time. There's been many conversations about, we even have ECOWAS. How is that working? How do you get your goods from here to Ghana without all the obstacles that you face? But I'm aware of time. I'm sure this conversation will go on through the other people.
Thank you very much. Do you have any comments, Jumoke?
I think one of the things that would help efficiency is the fact that cross-border operations would encourage us leveraging the strengths of each other. So if we collaborate, I'll give an example. If we have instances where you have production, you produce oil, but you don't have refining capacity. There's someone else that does have refining capacity, but does not produce as much. So by the time we work together, that leveraging will bring about efficiency in Africa.
Adejumoke?
Yeah, thank you, Ogechi. With all being said by Madam Cecilia and Ms. Jumoke, when we work together with the borderless operation in the African continent, we get a better Africa, and it will increase the GDP of all the countries in the continent.
Michelle, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
I
perfect.
can hear properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask you, in your opinion, how can governments and the private sector collaborate to overcome geopolitical challenges and foster regional cooperation in the energy sector?
Yeah. So first of all, from what you introduced, the demographic boom that Africa is living at this moment, where we will double the population by 2050, means that there is a large need of infrastructure developments. And part of this infrastructure, it is power, electricity. And a lot of the integration in these different African geographies means that the countries cannot work independently, alone, to make sure that they have enough capability to produce the power and even the transmission of that power. I will give you the example of our region on the SADC in the Southern Africa. For more than a decade already, we have a regional market for power that is called Southern Africa Power Pool, SAP. And this is it's constituted by all the power utility companies of each country, where we generate a unique market that can do a cross-border energy supply between one countries and the others. And this has allowed several projects to come online in the different regions, because we can now integrate and transfer power between countries in the region. And if you look at what's happening today in South Africa with the load shedding and all the difficulties that they're having with such a huge demand, the regional countries around South Africa are developing projects to mitigate part of the South African problem. I will give you two examples. One is in the Zambezi River in Mozambique. There is a project to build 1,500 megawatt on the hydropower. That basically this project will be to supply South Africa. And there is another project in the region of Maputo, in the capital of Mozambique, that will produce 2,000 megawatts produced by natural gas, where we will have FSRU, a floating storage regasification unit. And this facility will then, with a thermal plant, produce power, and this power will be transmitted into South Africa by several lines of high tension that they are bringing power from South Africa into Mozambique, but now will be reverse, sending power from Mozambique into South Africa. So this means that the African countries and the governments have understood the need of regional integration for power transmission. And several of the projects that are today in development in the African countries have in account the integrated regional market, because sometimes by the specific location of the material to produce the power, the feedstock is located in an area that there is not enough demand there, or we cannot generate enough demand, but very close by there is a country or there is a large city that can consume the power, and making more efficient those projects and financially viable. So there is a big integration in the regions. Of course, it's necessary to keep improving on the regulatory framework. For example, some of these markets, with example I gave with the Southern Africa Power Pool, can only be participated by the power utility companies, which is state-owned enterprises. So private companies must produce power on an independent source and sell this power to the power utility and then integrate in the regional market. Some countries are now moving forward, understanding that they should allow for private sector also to intervene on this, and they're making regulatory changes to allow private sector to come into that space. So I see that there is a very large development into that sphere that will bring us more closer to continental integration in terms of power production and power transmission. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ali. So what I'm hearing from the panelists now is Africa needs to solve Africa's problems, and we need to leverage our strengths from each other, and we can see that there's a lot of collaboration and integration going on, at least in Southern Africa. So, Madam Cecilia, can I ask you now, coming home and coming to our grassroots, how can local communities be actively involved and benefit from these borderless energy projects to ensure social and economic sustainability?
If you listen to the earlier discussions, the earlier panel, they dwelt on the communities being stakeholders. They will benefit from the huge supply chain. Like somebody talked about the batteries, that the storage batteries that are, it's an initiative for African, an African initiative for renewable energy battery storage. And that was just passed in this COP 28. I think you must have heard about it. So you can imagine that kind of thing. Some of the components will be coming from Africa, so from Nigeria. So we need to prepare our grassroots, the local communities, by sensitization, by training, by engaging them. You can imagine the number of NGOs that will spring up if there's a full collapse of the borders, and if collaboration and cooperation is actually what the government is pushing. You know, it's one thing to have the rhetoric, it's another thing to actually be willing to implement it. But the grassroots, and there's sustainability practices that they can pick up from other countries, maybe things like solar gas cookers or things like that. There'll be so much exchange of knowledge and transfer of technology and information. And the important thing is to involve them, you know, in decision making, because once they're involved, they'll take ownership of whatever initiatives you start, because this is the what we've seen in dealing with our communities every day. So training is important, and information is important, and involving them is important.
So just a follow-up to that, do you see any possible challenges or, from involving the local communities, and how would you think they can be mitigated?
Well, the truth is that the challenges that come from involving the communities is when there's no sincerity in interaction with them. You need to always keep them engaged. If they know what is going on and how it can benefit them and how it can improve the lot of themselves and their children, they'll key into it. But when there's lack of trust between the government or maybe the NGOs will come and tell them something and they disappear, they don't come back, make promises they can't keep, then you have problems with the communities. But the mind boggles as to the kind of benefits that will accrue to communities if there's actually collaboration and cooperation among African nations.
And communication, yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you for that. Adejumoke, I'll come to you now. What challenges and opportunities arise when implementing borderless operations in African energy sector when you consider the regulatory environment?
There's always a teething period. A child, when a child is given birth to, it will crawl, or maybe even teeth, crawl, walk before flying. So the challenges will be there, but if we understand where we are going, if we work together, if we collaborate, because the word is called collaboration, 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 we will get there. Part of the challenges is that we Africans, we don't trust ourselves. We believe in still engaging the services of the multinationals, even not only in Nigeria, in Kenya, and Uganda. So we need to look away from that and collaborate with each other. And also, there's so much taxation. For a company to collaborate or to start up business in Nigeria, even if we are not a Nigerian, so multiple taxes can collapse business. So government needs to look into that. And we need to also learn to, that's basically trust, learn to help to use all the custom duties. I know Ms. Olori was talking about her traveling out to, is it to Togo or to Cotonou? When she was coming back, she saw 14 police checkpoints. So if you have a project, a project to deliver in Uganda or in Gabon, you are moving your equipment from Nigeria. That means the whole cost of, there will be the heavy cost of moving your equipment from one African country to the other, which collapses business and it discourages investors even coming into Nigeria, for example. But the advantages are enormous if the governments do their own work. They are the major key players. I know they have started the initiative of the NOGICAT, the PIA, but if it's being implemented properly, NCDMB, they are really trying, and they have moved from 15 to 40%. They are really enabling, they are really creating enabling environment for indigenous companies to strive better. But we need more of the regulators to ensure, because from home, if your home country is doing well, it will attract investors to come. And when they come in, they will transfer technology into each other's country. They will train even a layman. Everybody will be interested to do business with a transparent policy and access to funds, good roads, electricity to power all the sectors.
Thank you for that. Ogechi, how can technology play a role in facilitating seamless cross-border energy operations in Africa?
Thank you, Ogechi. Through data, access to data, technology can enable access to data, access to market intelligence across the continent. That is one. Another thing is the fact that cross-border energy operations and transfer of funds go hand in hand. So technology would also enable payment solutions to ensure that transfer of funds is seamless. Also, project optimization. You don't have, with technology-enabled tools, you don't have to always physically be at a particular project before you can inspect, before you can monitor, before you can control, and that reduces cost. And finally, I think transparency. Through technology-enabled tools, you can have access to whatever it is that is going on somewhere else. At Monida, what we have done is build a platform that has incorporated all of this, such that I can onboard someone from Congo, I can onboard someone from Mauritius, I can onboard someone from Namibia, which is what we have done already, a platform that gives you access to data, to market intelligence, and is also payment solution enabled. And it also provides transparency, even for investors, such that you can have access to projects that you fund and you can see how they're doing. So I think with technology, access to data, project optimization, and transparency, those are the things that technology can help cross-border.
Okay. I was going to ask about finance as well, but you've touched on that. So what were your challenges that you faced in terms of setting up these systems and platforms?
Yes, for the challenges, the first thing is regulation and jurisdiction. So whatever it is that applies here might not be the same thing that also applies somewhere else. But what you can do with that is collaboration and partnership. You don't have to be physically present. But if you have someone there that has your interest, if you have someone there that works with you, that works for you. Another thing is access to funds. It might not be easy to get access to funds because these cross-border transactions are large ticket transactions and you always need massive funds. So that's another thing that we have done. So we have created a fund. We have created an African fund, about $500 million, such that we can access, businesses across Africa can have access to it, have access to capital, and we can also work with them and give them execution support.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so this fund, what is this fund?
It was launched in Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes, during the Africa Energy Week.
Okay. Michelle, are you with us?
Absolutely, I'm
Great.
here.
Okay, I wanted to ask you,
every single word.
That's good today. What policy frameworks are needed to encourage and support cross-border investments in the African energy sector, in your opinion?
Well, I think that in the power business, basically you have three items. One is the production of power, another is the transmission of that power, and the third one is the distribution of that power. Now, in general terms, in the African continent, all of these activities has been concentrated in the hands of the public sector through the power utility companies. Now, a lot of these companies are facing very, very heavy problems, operational problems, and it becomes more relevant, the participation of the private sector, the African private sector. Now, what we need a legal framework that can enable African entrepreneurs to invest in the energy sector. Now, this sector, it is a very high intensive capital investment. And in general, projects are above $100, $200 million investment with a long period term of amortization. Now, if the legal framework is not clear, if the PPAs, the contracts are not completely secured through the appropriate legislation, it do not generate the right confidence for the investment in the sector. It is and it will become relevant, the participation of the private sector in the business of power. And as I said before, we cannot think of this sector if we do not think of cross-border operations, because basically a lot of our countries are the largest concentrated areas, and not only by demographic, but also by industrial allocation, are very close by. And this enables the integration of these projects. Now, the appropriate legislation and the modification of the legal framework, of course, we have so many countries in Africa. Each one of them, according to their stage of development, must do their process. But we need to think that to integrate on the regional sphere, we need to advance to allow much easier flow of the private capital into this business, to allow much faster development of private initiatives. To finalize and to summarize very quickly, I will give you the example of South Africa. South Africa is the largest consumer of power in our continent. They consume more than 56,000 megawatts of power. Now, if they do not allow the private sector to really boost the production of power and the transmission of this power, and then the distribution through the municipalities, this will mean that they will carry on suffering for many years, because their power utility company is facing very large financial problems. So it cannot be easily bankable. But private sectors that have very strong, robust balance sheet are able to be financed to develop large-scale projects that can mitigate the problems of power. So all of this means that we need to advance to the improve of our legal framework to allow private sector to enter into such a business.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I know our time is fast spent. So I would like to close with, to get each person's opinion on what next. So now, discussion in the last 30 minutes, we have talked about where government can come in, where the private sector can come in, and how important it is for both sectors to collaborate to have an efficient borderless operation. So now we've spoken, we've talked. What would you like to see next from the government or from the private sector?
Okay, for one, from what everybody has said, and I think, I've heard it a lot today, government needs to be intentional about implementing some of these policies. For instance, the borderless movement of persons. I was in France and I drove by road to Italy. It was seamless. Nobody stopped me. So they need to be serious about this if they actually want us to gain the benefits of the collaboration. And also, someone was talking about when you are in one country and you want to do business, you have to look for somebody because there are multiple regulations, to apply. Why can't government and private sector sit down and see what their needs are and try and harmonize some of these regulations, at least the ones that will enable freedom of movement and goods and services, so that there will be easy transfer of goods and services and operations, so to speak. So they need to harmonize the policies and the regulations, and they need to be serious about collapsing the borders.
Thank you. Jumoke, your thoughts?
Yes, for us to have growth, it's cross-border energy operations is inevitable. So the thing is we have to prepare put the infrastructure in place, put the framework in place to ensure that it will be seamless.
Jumoke?
Okay, I would like to see synergy and collaborations amongst our Africa energy leaders, in which I think is already on. There's an event we used to organize in Petan. It's called SciPec. I remember 2019, groups of people from Uganda, they came just to learn about Nigerian NCDMB, local content policy. So after the event, I was told by my leaders, Mr. Roti and Mr. Bank Anthony. So we took them to NCDMB to learn them, and they took it back. Now we are hearing about Uganda local content policy, but it started from Nigeria here through this event, SciPec. So that I expect to see more synergy, more collaboration amongst our African leaders to shape the future of Africa. Thank you.
Michelle?
Without power cannot be development. And our governments and our leadership needs to understand that not only the public sector, but the full integration of the private sector will allow the power development of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, thank you all. I think do I owe you a cow? I do owe you a cow. All right, thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you very much, Michelle. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Please put your hands together for them. You know what time it is. Media, if you could just come together for pictures. We have 30 seconds. If you want to take any pictures, any videos, please come together in the middle of the stage while we just document this. You know, if you've not taken a picture, that means it didn't happen. Thank you so much for being here.